Hello and welcome to All Things Maya. My name is Maya and I will be discussing the Great British Sewing Bee Season 8, Episode 4. The title of this particular episode is Reduce, Reuse, and Recycle. Sometimes it's known as upcycling, which is basically where you take a product that has already been used or made and then you reuse it into something different, or you recycle it into another product, or you just reduce how much your product you're using in order to make something less likely to go into the landfill. So we'll go right into the pattern challenge. The pattern challenge for this episode was a quilted jacket. They gave them 4 hours and 15 minutes, which is really indicative of how difficult this challenge was going to be, considering the made to measure is always 5 hours. So with this challenge, they had to make their own fabric. It comprised of 96 squares made into 4 panels of fabric, in which they had to make the front and the sleeves. They had an opportunity to use other material for the back. The chances that I would make this myself, my fear level on this particular thing, the likelihood that I would, how scared I am to make this, my fear level is really high. It's like a 4 or probably a 5. I will probably never try to make this. The expectations for the judges was that the corners line up on the fabric squares and that the quilt fabric has mitered binding on the corners. So with the contestant mates, a lot of the contestants struggled with making their patterns. They some of them went really random, which in the end saved them some time. Others were very specific in the way they wanted it to turn out. Man talks about decision paralysis, which 100% get. I have the decision paralysis all the time. I'm very indecisive, and sometimes I start projects and never get past the research stage. Angela and Marnie had to restitch their panel several times because of having a very particular way that they wanted their material to fly, to look. And then there was just the additional stress of having to have straight lines for each of those squares where they meet. You want to have a perfect 4-way corner and not be slightly off. And that's pretty stressful in the time. As far as the binding goes, I am not particularly good with binding as it is. I've done it a few times, made a couple of sample quilts where I had to do the corners. The mitered binding seemed pretty difficult to me. But having to do that in addition to making your own fabric, and that just seems way out of my league, way out of my league. So definitely that's where that fear level comes in, where I would be like a 4 or 5. As far as the judging goes, Brogan's choice of fabric and patchwork was complimented. Marnie and Christian did really well, except for the binding. Lots of the contestants had trouble with the binding, which is where I would have a personal downfall. The mitered corners on Brogan's was almost perfect except for one. Deborah's mitered all her corners. Annie surprised with symmetry on her jackets, but then she failed to miter her corners. She was one of many people who ended up having either partially mitered corners or very round corners where the binding just kept going around the corner and wasn't squared off. And then Steve, of course, he didn't finish his jacket, and other than that, the pattern of the fabric was good. Everything else about the jacket was not. So in the end, Steve came in last place with Man-Yi next. Brogan takes second, and Deborah comes in first with her jacket. Brogan lost by a hair. It was just that one corner. As she said, it was the very first one she did. It was just that one corner, and it would have been perfect. So after watching the challenge, I would say I'm interested in it. It's probably my fear level. I'd still say it's at least a 4, because making the fabric, getting the corner square, a lot of the fine technical details of making the particular outfit would make it difficult for me to actually complete. But I'm a little interested in it, a little bit more interested in it after watching them do it. There were several really nice outfits. So the next thing that we would go over is the transformation challenge. They always get 90 minutes for the transformation challenge, and in this particular episode, they have to deconstruct 2 jackets, 2 coats, and turn it into one coat that uses features of both. I think that it's really hard to come up with initial thoughts on this because you are reusing coats, so I don't have a coat that I have, or 2 coats that I have access to for what I would do. There was one that I saw that was really cool that had a fur-lined collar on it. I could imagine using something like that along with a trench style coat or a military jacket and adding those features together. In terms of the contestant choices, Brogan talks about puff sleeves. She's done a lot of talking about puff sleeves. I'm not sure if we're going to see anything else from her or if she's a one-trick pony. She may do more, but there's been, over the last few challenges, there's been a lot of talk of puff sleeves for her. Christian struggles a little bit with the needles, but his particular coat choice his choice of 2 coats to use were not attractive, but you can make something out of it in the end, and so we'll see how he pulls that off. And Brogan and Jill both talk peplums on their outfits, which is just the like a ruffle that goes around the outfit. So out of everything, I think the most out of the box for me was Manny's outfit. It was sort of a trench coat, but just the length on it. Everyone else seemed to lack that length, except for Angela, but hers wasn't as well executed. Deborah's outfit was sort of out of the box because it was a cape similar to Annie's, but hers was not as successful as Manny's project. And then the outfit that I like the best is Brogan's. It's pink. I don't like pink. I'm not a pink person, but it's super cute, and it's probably the one that I would be most personally attracted to. So in the end of the pattern challenge, Deborah takes a bit of a nosedive and she takes last, but Manny makes a bit of a comeback and she comes in first place. On to the made to measure. With the made to measure, they are doing a maxi dress out of old duvet covers, which is bound to be interesting because duvets are wide and varied. The prints are wide and varied, and the older the duvet, the more difficult the, or not difficult, but the more interesting the pattern may be. So I kind of was neutral on my excitement level of that, which is basically just how excited am I that they're doing this? How excited am I to try this particular project? And in a smaller sense, how interested am I in actually doing it? So I was kind of neutral. I might make a maxi dress, personally, not with a duvet cover. So if I were to do it, what I would personally make would be like an empire waist maxi dress, because it accentuates the top portion and then lets everything flow down and makes it very easy to hide middle portions of the body. That's something that's important to me because I am a larger figured person. So of the contestants' progress, when we're going over it, most of the contestants used a duvet that had a reversible front and back, so that gave them 2 fabric patterns to work with. Christian used a family duvet from that was gotten from India that his father got for his mother. That was really brave, especially if the outfit doesn't come off. Then it's like, ooh, did we waste this particular fabric? Jill points out that you can't practice with the fabric ahead of time, so you don't really know how the item's going to look. You can sort of mock it up. You can do a different duvet cover, but you're not going to have the exact one. So there's no real way to explain, to know what it looks like. So there's a little fear going into it. She also states that she altered her design a little bit. So by altering it, it actually made it a little more difficult. Steve is going with a very Lisa Frank 80s style print. It's really cool. It's got lots of potential, but it is not, it is very, very 80s style. Annie is also using a Crochet Lace. And you have to wonder if this is going to really turn out, because lace can be very difficult to insert into a product. And then Marnie did something really cool. She had some hand-dyed elements. She took some of her fabric ahead of time and dyed it a different color to accentuate the fabric that she was using from the duvet, or the other bits of fabric she was using from the duvet. And then Mani decided to do some ruffle work. She seems to be almost like a dark horse in the competition, because she's going for some really difficult things, difficult types, technical aspects of her projects in order to make an impact. So she's working with ruffles and working on a comeback in a sense, since she did do poorly in the pattern challenge but did well in the transformation challenge. So it's one of those things where you're kind of on even keel. You could go down, you could go up. You're really putting yourself at risk if you don't do well in the made to measure. So she did some ruffle work for that. During the judging, they said that Jill had a good fit and good fabric placement. Deborah's orange piping was better to help bring the outfit to life, though they preferred it without the bow because it created more dramatic flair and impact by being this bold print that goes all the way down. Kristen, they said, had well thought out fabric placement. Marnie, they said the making of the trim was really impressive, and it could have used the dart on the side of the bust area. With Annie, her crochet trim helps to update the outfit, but in her case, her dart was actually too high. Brogan, her overall fit is good, even if her gathering wasn't even. My main problem with Brogan's outfit is that print is hideous. I know they kept calling it like Nana Chic or something like that, but that print is horrible. I mean, I'm not sure how many people would line up to actually wear that. Angela had a nice outfit with the panels and the buttons on her dress, but she missed the last button on her dress and it was slightly too long. And by slightly, maybe like 4 or 5 inches, because it was pretty much dragging the ground where you could see the contestants' shoes were covered completely. And then Manny had good fabric placement, but she was missing some frills, so it made it sort of incomplete. The frills in the middle. It's almost like she was making a maxi dress that was a tiered peasant dress, and so she was missing some of her frills in the middle. That affected the overall look. And then with Steve's outfit, Patrick said it had real punch. It had good fabric placement, and but he had an issue with the zipper, which at some point he goes, "Oh, that doesn't look really good. Maybe I could just take a black Sharpie and make it look more even." It's like, yeah, don't do that. That's definitely not going to win you any points. So in the end, there was a couple of that I really liked. I liked Jill's outfit with the chevron print. That was really nice and easy to, it looked good. It was flowing. It's similar to her maxi dress that she did, her in the, not the maxi dress, but the one she did in episode 1 that was very her wrap dress that was very stylish and simplistic, but it was very effective. I also like Marnie's cross front dress with the slit up the middle. It just looks very, it still looks very crosswalk runway, which is where she got the inspiration from. would I be interested in doing this myself? Yeah, I might try it sometime. Again, I do it with the Empire waist in it. But I really like long things that come down to my ankles. And even though I'm only 5'8", I don't find things that come all the way down to my ankles often. Usually it stops about a couple inches above. I like that type of dress that will come all the way down and just slightly cover the top of your shoes. So overall, in this particular episode, I would say some of the highlights of it is Deborah's quilted jacket. It was really nice. Christian also had a really nice quilted jacket in yellows. And then Brogan's near perfect jacket. Brogan's near perfect jacket in the, but minus the fact that she had that one item, that one corner that was not bound correctly with the mitered corner. With the lowlights on the challenge this week, I would say it would be Steve not finishing the pattern challenge. It's very important to finish all your challenges. Pattern challenge just sort of sets you up for the overall tone of the week. And then the other low light I would say is Deborah's coat. Like I said before, she was kind of out of the box in that she was making a poncho style jacket coat cape, but her cape was not successful in the least bit. And finally, do I agree with the decision? Jill did a fantastic dress. She totally deserved Garment of the Week. Steve, however, he felt out of his element. He didn't finish his jacket. He was low in the transformation. And while the print and ideal for the maxi was good, it didn't come off. His execution really fell short. And but he had only been sewing for a year, and that's really commendable that he gets on the Great British Sewing Bee and that he is able to get all the way to episode 4. So, congratulations to him on his progress and getting there, and hopefully he keeps doing tons of sewing in his future. I did enjoy this episode. It makes me excited to sew again. Every so often I put it down and I don't do it for a while, but I really enjoyed this particular episode, and it's got a couple of things circling around in my head for things I might want to do. So tell me how you felt about the episode. Put any comments down below and let me know what you're looking for next. Thanks so much for joining All Things Maya, and we will see you on the next episode.